Morning, Neville.
Good morning, CK. Very cold day in London today.
It's calm in India as well. We have today's 23rd day of the lockdown. We have some more days to go. But more important thing is today is alphabet Q that we want to discuss. So what do you think Q stands for?
Well, you've just said it.
What do you mean?
Well, you just said it again.
Come on, Neville. Don't play with me.
Okay, I'm not going to play with you anymore. Q is for asking a question.
Okay.
It's as simple as that. And it's a question that comes up all the time. Business owners really should ask questions. And why is that? Well, we learn through asking questions. And we learn through asking the question after the question after the question. So let's explore why this happens. So you've got young children, haven't you?
Oh yes, we have two.
There you go. So that was a very closed question. You've got young children, haven't you? And you came back with, yes, I have two. So you gave me a bit more information there. And during the day, now your children are under lockdown, you see them all the day now. You can't avoid, despite being locked away in your study. One of the features of children is they ask lots of questions. So on an average day, what percentage of their day when you see them are they asking questions?
So the children are always asking questions. I think they have 80% of their time they're asking questions for small little things. Everything they want to ask a question, because if the parent says, hey, do it, they feel empowered, so they do it. But 20% of the time they feel empowered themselves. So without asking 20% active for the 20% activity, they don't ask any question. So I would say 80% they're definitely asking questions.
Yeah, and that's pretty typical, because even in the classroom they will ask questions. The teacher will say something and the kids will ask questions. But over time, the questioning stops. It slows down. And we know that happens because now let me ask you from a business point of view, just on average, how many people ask questions?
Interestingly, Neville, the way you put it makes me introspect myself, and I really feel that nobody asks questions. In fact, if I have my discussions with my colleagues, my team, and even my clients, very few questions. It's like a job, somebody says, hey, do this. The answer expected from that thing is, okay. There are no questions asked, really.
And so over time, and it's a feature of everyone around the world. This is not specific to any particular country or district. That's the way things happen. But it's the reason why it happens, which is really important. And the majority of the time is that when we're very young, we're thirsty for knowledge. We really want to know, even the simple things. They're pushing boundaries all the time. So when your kids ask you, I wonder if mum or dad are going to let me have this thing that I really want, and they come to you and they suggest something and you say, yeah, okay. They've pushed the boundary, It may be a really sugary treat that you think, well, under normal circumstances, no, but yeah, okay, they can have it now. They clock that up here and they know next time, what did they do to push the boundary? So they're going to push the boundary again. And we should be doing that in businesses each time, just pushing the boundary. So, but the way we push the boundary is to ask questions. And it doesn't matter how simple the question is or how difficult the question is, we need to ask it. Now, this requires a lot of openness, not being judgmental, because that's really easy. Because as soon as you start to get into these questions arena, so if I was to turn around to you and say, why aren't you achieving your, your results, CK? I mean, immediately I'm coming over as really aggressive and, argumentative and judgmental. How does that make you feel?
Um, I think a person like me would have handled these questions so many times in our own professional careers, and even at home. I think in a family also such questions arise. But I fully agree with you. There is a way to question, and there is a way to answer, and I think that's a technique that everyone should learn.
And you're absolutely right. So you take the aggression out, take the finger pointing out, take the blame culture out, and ask very what I call third party questions. So this is, some people will say, work on the business. So imagine this isn't your business. So if you were to look at acquiring another business, you would have no judgment in your mind at all. You'd be saying, what are they doing here? How's that working? Is that a good fit? Immediately, you're asking questions. But as soon as you start to ask questions about your own business, oh, we screwed that up. Oh, we didn't do very well there. And the body language changes. So this is about what happened, not what did you do? Why did that fail? Those are real judgmental questions. So it really is an issue of forming the right question, having the can-do attitude to be objective. So when you've done a project, have a review. What went really well? What could we have improved? That's not being very personally critical or saying to anyone in the team, that was your fault. Even if it's good news, So the good news and the bad news will come out anyway, but it will be non-judgmentally. I'm not saying this is easy, because if you've done it a different way all your life, guess what? You've got to change, which may be more difficult. But you can practice that, and you can practice that on your kids. So, what one thing, if your son comes up to you and said, "Can I watch more movies, Dad?" If you were outside the yes and the no, what could you say to your child that would get him to think?
See,
Putting you on the spot again. You see, you don't get off lightly here.
so like the kids are doing negotiations, I think we are also doing negotiations. We'll say, okay, only one movie, not more. So it's like we are saying, yes, go ahead and watch your movie, but restrict to only one. So we are setting the conditions.
Okay. What about letting your son set the conditions?
Oh, they do all the time. They are the ones.
Of course they do. But what about when you say, he says, Dad, can I watch another movie? And you say, well, why do you want to watch another movie? Immediately puts him on the back foot. He's a young child, But the point is, each time he's asking questions, he's always got a yes and no answer. Most kids do. Parents are like that all the time. It's yes and no, because we want to get rid of it. These aren't really important issues that we're dealing with all the time. If it's important, you might think about it a bit more. And parents will either say, well, maybe. What's maybe? Maybe's not an answer at all, actually. In fact, my children would turn around and say, well, that means no then, because you haven't made a decision. So if you were to ask, and let's take it away from the children, let's take it into the business now. And someone comes up with, an employee comes up with, here's the answer. You could actually turn around and say, well, what does it mean then? Really simple. Now you've done the project, what does it mean? And by that way, you're getting them to think and getting them to grow. So we can do an awful lot internally asking questions so that the next time they come with a prepared thought process. Because if you're going to consistently say, so what does that mean? You know, if you were to do that again, how would you do it better? Immediately, you know, they're getting to think. More importantly, you're getting them engaged. And the more engaged your employees get, the more productive they become. They actually feel as though they're not just salaried and they're not just taking their wage every month, they're actually contributing to the organisation. So asking questions internally and be very open with the arena, you know, not argumentative, you know, not poking the finger, not being dictatorial, asking, so what's happening? Why is this happening? What could we do better? Where did we go wrong? How can I help you improve next time? These are not, you know, not difficult questions to think of. And if you struggle with them, then go and write a few down and say, is that argumentative? You know, am I pointing a finger with that question? And practice it a bit, you know, and the more you practice, actually the easier it will be. So we're back to that little P again from yesterday, you know, practice, practice, practice. And it's the right practice that makes perfect. So practice these questions. Does this make sense? I mean, is it rocket science? Do you think it's hard to do?
It's not at all hard to do. In fact, it's very logical what you're saying. But interestingly, we are, at least, you know, what I've seen in my own circle, we are more diplomatic with our kids than our own employees. So we try to balance it out when we talk to kids. Hey, let's have a, you know, leading conversation. But with the employees, I think, or it's both ways. Even employees are, you know, don't talk to the boss in that same manner. So diplomacy is slightly less. It's more of a confinement.
Yeah, I understand that. And but like anything else, if we're going to be collaborative moving forward, and attract the right customer, the right client, that's going to be a really good relationship, then again you need to adopt the same approach. Ask questions. What's your problem? How have you solved it in the past? Did it make a long-term impact? Are you open to other considerations? Question, question, question. You know, when we're 3 years old, the only thing we've got in our mind is, I'm either happy with what I'm doing, or I'm going to ask a question because I want something else. So when we used to go on holiday, you know, all the kids would pile in the back of the car, and by the end of the street, one of us would say, are we nearly there yet? Have we got any sandwiches? Can I have a drink? We've just left the house. No. So within 100 yards, we're bored. You know, and then, you know, my parents, like every other parent, would say, well, let's play a game, I Spy. Well, that works for about half an hour. And then there's only so many lampposts that you can go past, you know. I Spy reminded it like something with L. Lamppost. Oh, yes, Neville's turn. You know? So, but we constantly ask questions. Now's the opportunity to ask questions in the business. But again, it's a question of the focus of the question. Make it inanimate. And if you haven't done this in the past, because many people don't do this, write it down. Write down the question and say, is that judgmental? Is that argumentative? And if you think yes, then cross it out. Don't ask the question. And you'll come to a list of 5 or 6 that you can consistently ask. And when you're consistent with that questioning, your employees, your customers actually will think about a few of the answers before they come back to you. And then you can go back actually with the more detailed question, which is really going to get to the problem. Again, this is not rocket science. We don't have 14 years worth of questioning in school, but we do, because every child asks the teacher a question. We do 14 years of maths. In the maths lessons, there's questions. That's how we learn. It's not difficult to understand this. It's what you might call common sense, but make it your common practice. And the solution is simple. You know, you can go today, and everyone can go today and just write down some questions and see, I ask that question regularly. Is that argumentative? Is that pointing out a problem and blaming people? Am I the one to blame? You know, so cross the question out. Put another question. And this can be done really quickly. You've just got to take a little bit of time out, a bit of introspection, and think. And then you can go to your team and say, every time we do a project, why don't we answer these questions? You know, did we enjoy what we did? Did we get the result we wanted? Notice the language. Did we, us. Hardly ever me and you. Does that make sense?
In fact, Neville, thank you for clearing my mind today. And I got an idea that, you know, once this session is over, I'm going to set up a process in my company where we will have a stand-up meeting every week, once a week, for an hour, where everybody can ask any question. No process.
A brilliant idea. Yeah.
Anything that comes to mind, please come and ask anyone.
Just brilliant. And once you start that off and you continue it, I'd like you to feedback, you know, write a blog, you know, do a little video about it. Get one of your employees to do a video about it. You know, how does it make them feel? Do they feel they're more engaged in the organization? Are they happier? Because happiness is a byproduct of something you're doing. If you're really in the zone and really enjoying what you're doing, of course you can be happy. Even when you're filling out a tax return, because you're doing it quickly. That makes me very happy because I can get the rubbish out of the way quickly and get on to more important things. So I think that's a fantastic idea, you know, and you've now said it and it's been recorded and you're going to put it out there. So now your employees are going to say, CK said this, we're going to make it happen.
Oh, definitely. So we will set up this as a process, because that's the whole point on you know, discussing these things. If we can't practice it, what's the point? So I'm
absolutely
practice.
Absolutely. So, Q, you started off asking questions. We're going to finish asking a question to everybody. What are you going to do?
I will also ask the question. What else? I will ask.
What else? Well, today was an easy cue. I don't think many people thought we would get to the question, but even so, we did. So now the issue is, what are you going to do? You know, take the advice. What are you going to do with it? Because it's important. So get on with it.
Yes, certainly. And it was such a nice session I had with you, Neville. Thank you so much for your time. And we'll catch up tomorrow again with another alphabet.
Another trip through the alphabet.
Certainly.
Take care, CK. Have fun. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
High five.